Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show. Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
We are back. For the first time in 62 years, the Florida Memorial Lions will hit the gridiron, and their home games will be streamed by the Black College Sports Network at www.fmuathletics.com, www.mybcsn.net, and on the MyBCSN app, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
Good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Coles Brown Show, watched exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Coles Brown here. Here's what's coming up on today's guest menu. In hour number one, got two guests for you. First, Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics with Advocate. He joins me. We'll have a conversation on the huge matchup today, the game of the week. Not only in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, but debatable in Black college football. Then Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, host of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. He'll join me in hour number one. He'll be giving us a preview of the Prairie A&M Panthers football team. Again, A.W. Mumford Stadium, Pete Richardson Field, homecoming 2021 for Southern University. And by the way, happy homecoming to all of the supporters, alums here at Southern University. Enjoy yourself. All the festivities all week, and it ends with a huge matchup tonight, 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus, Prairie View A&M and Southern University. We're going to talk a lot more about that game as well. Charles Edmond, last guest of the Alcorn State Radio Network, he joins me, and we'll be talking Southwestern Athletic Conference football. Also, some basketball predictions are out. We're going to give you that information as well. But for Southern University, 2021 homecoming, and they're coming in this ball game, and it is, of course, the game of the week in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. But to make it to this point, last week, I basically said it was do or die for the Jaguars at Arkansas Pine Bluff. And guess what? The Jaguars came up with their best defensive effort of the season against University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. The Jaguars spoiled UAPB's homecoming 34-7. And we can say two words: Kobe Dillon, 40-yard touchdown run, 45-yard touchdown run. Then the first play of the third quarter, to me, was the nail in the coffin. He dashes 75 yards for a touchdown. So Kobe Dillon, a freshman, came to Southern University, recruited as a quarterback, wanted to get on the football field. Coach, I want to do whatever I can to get on the field, moved to the running back position. And quite honestly, what a pleasant surprise, a gifted athlete, but is fitting in nicely at the running back position. The Jaguars were up 21-0 at the half. In the third quarter, they scored 10 points. Then the fourth quarter, 3 points. UAPB gets on the scoreboard in the fourth quarter with 7 points. But the Jaguars defense, which we took them to task, rightfully so, inconsistent up to this point, they came out and had their best outing of the season defensively, and they are going to have to continue that. Okay. Tonight, against Prairie View A&M, a very balanced football team. They can throw it, they can run it. We'll get into more specifics of a game plan that what I think Southern University quite simply has to do to be victorious in the ball game tonight. If we look at some of the team statistics, the Jaguars rushed for 304 yards. Now, put an underline under that. Against Texas Southern, over 300 yards rushing. Against the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, over 300 yards rushing. That's back-to-back 100 yards rushing for this Southern University football team. Offensive line, tremendous. Talked about all of the accolades for them coming into this football season. They have lived up to it. 304 yards rushing. They only gave up 65 yards rushing to University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Net yards passing, only 69 yards passing. But when you're gashing and you're just mauling University of Arkansas Pine Bluff up front, there's no need to pass. You pass when you want to. And that's kind of what they did, they being Southern University. Total offensive yards, Jaguars 373 yards on 55 plays. University of Arkansas Pine Bluff 207 yards on 60 plays. The Jaguars averaged better than 6 yards per play. So offensively, they've been able to get things done rushing the football. And I'm going to tell you now, that's going to be key tonight. I keep saying tonight, 6 p.m. against Prairie View and them Panthers. You bet that Southerners want to continue running the football. And if they're successful in doing that, hey, will they get 300 yards rushing? I guess that's the goal for them. But if they're running the football, they're winning the time of possession, and then they're also limiting Prairie View A&M touches. Now, Kobe Dillon, 40, 45, and 75. If there are big plays there that you can make, you're going to do it. But they're going to want to keep Prairie View A&M's explosive, balanced offense off the field, limit their possessions. And then defensively, the Jaguars will have to duplicate what they did last week. And look, Arkansas Pine Bluff, an explosive offensive team, but they were coming in on the losing streak. Prairie View A&M with Mr. Pass, yes, he can pass it, and a balanced offensive attack. It's going to be a bigger challenge, in my humble opinion. But the Jaguars defensively, their best effort last week, got to duplicate it. Back to some statistics. The Jaguars won a time of possession, 31 minutes to 14 seconds, 28 and 46 seconds for Arkansas Pine Bluff. The Jaguars were 4-14 on third down, but a lot of their scoring plays were big gains. So from an individual standpoint, and we kind of talked about Kobe Dillon, 14 attempts, 14 carries for 267 yards. That's a 19.1 yard average. I'll take that any day of the week. And by the way, Kobe Dillon, an award we're going to talk about in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Now, some have been reporting that it's a SWAC single game record. No, it's not. Mr. Arnold from Jackson State holds that on with about 346 yards. But it's a Southern University single game rushing record that Kobe Dillon produced. 14 carries, 267 yards. Bubba McDaniel, 9 of 15 for 58 yards. But I will say this. If Prairie View, and I suspect that their front seven is physical. They've improved defensively. You wonder if they're going to, at some point, maybe start off the game with 7-8 in the box and force Southern University to pass. And if they do, there will be opportunities for McDaniels and the wideouts and Ethan Howard at the tight end back out. There'll be some opportunities. So we're going to play how we think Prairie View is going to match up, how Southern's going to match up defensively, offensively, special teams. We're going to have all that for you coming out throughout the show. And then finally, defensively for the Jaguars, Ray Anderson, 5 tackles, 2 sacks. Lyston Barber, he had 1 sack, 2 tackles. And Jordan Woods, defensive tackle, about 6'4", 295, 300. Defensive tackle, finally cleared to play for Southern University, transferred in from Florida International University. He got his first action, and you're going to have to count on him as well this week. Jordan Lewis, we'll see with the injury update. Maybe Jim can give us an update on injuries for Southern University. So with that being said, Jaguars improved to 3-3, 2-1 in conference. They defeat Arkansas Pine Bluff 34-7. And wow, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, I still say, when they lost that game to Alcorn State, they have not been the same. I'm sure it's some physical problems, but also from a mental standpoint, that was just a tough loss. And they are on a tremendous losing streak, along with Alabama A&M. Going to take my first time out. When I come back, I'll be joined by Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for The Advocate. You're watching The Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show. Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
We are back. For the first time in 62 years, the Florida Memorial Lions will hit the gridiron, and their home games will be streamed by the Black College Sports Network. at www.fmuathletics.com, www.mybcsn.net, and on the My BCSN app, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Today's first guest, no stranger to the show. It's good to see him again. Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for the Advocate. And Jim, good morning to you.
Morning, Carlos. Big day on the Bluff, homecoming and all that. It's going to be quite a day.
Quite a day. Traffic, Jim. I know you know about the traffic, so I know you're gonna govern yourself accordingly with the traffic. But that's a good traffic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, might have to parachute in.
Hey, that's a good idea. Good idea. Or if you could get an escort, that would be even better. Let's talk Southern University football. Let's start with last week. Get your thoughts on a big game. It was the next game on the road. It was UAPB's homecoming, and Southern University, in my humble opinion, took care of business and defensively. Hey, what a difference from the previous week with Texas Southern. I said I thought Southern's defense performed well. What say you, Jim, about last week's game?
The best thing about it, I think, is that Southern responded, and they responded well. I mean, you can come off a loss and muddle through your next victory, not looking too good, but they went in and not only took care of business, they did it authoritatively. They really deserved to have a shutout. If it wasn't for that block punt at the end, they probably would have gotten one. But it looked like they cleaned up their defensive mistakes. It was a little bit different team that they were playing, but they did what they had to do, and they did it well. Offensively, they were good. Defensively, they had a couple of hiccups on special teams, but they were playing so well on offense and defense that those hiccups didn't hurt them.
Jim, back-to-back 300 yards rushing. We can say that that's what the Jaguars like to do, run the football. They have a physical offensive line. But, you know, I think the run will set up the pass going forward. But if they can produce another 300-yard rushing game, I think it bodes well for the Jaguars.
Oh yeah, I doubt they'd have to play really poorly elsewhere to rush for 300 and lose. But which is what happened against Texas Southern. When you run the ball like that. And UAPB was a little bit different because they had 3 long touchdown runs. Those were short drives. What you want is you want to grind down the other team's defense and keep them on the field, getting 4, 5, 6 yards a pop. And I think UAPB's defense left something to be desired. They had some pretty monstrous holes for Kobe Dillon to run through. I don't think you're going to see that this week. Although I don't think Prairie View's defense is all that it's cracked up to be, like the number 3 in the conference. They haven't yet faced a team that has a will to run the ball like Southern.
Well, that's an interesting point, because I was looking at last week's ball game that they struggled with. And I know they were coming off open week, I believe, Prairie View, but Bethune-Cookman, over 249, 269, 59 yards rushing. I think Southern's going to attack there. That's what Southern's like to do. And we could say, Jim, that Southern's rushing attack is better than Bethune-Cookman's.
I would say so. And I think there's a possibility that Devon Ben and Gerard Sims will play today. I think they're both game time decisions. It would help a lot because you can't just keep giving the ball to Kobe Dillon. He's a freshman, and he had a fumble in that Texas Southern game that really hurt Southern. But if they can get a good rotation between those three guys, and I think Craig Nelson's healthy. So the backfield, they got enough bodies that they can just keep throwing somebody out there. And it doesn't seem like it matters who runs the ball. Whoever runs the ball gets yards when they run behind that Southern offensive line.
I'm visiting with Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for the Advocate, talking a little bit of Southern University and Prairie View A&M. Last week, Southern University in Arkansas, Pine Bluff. Now, defensively, as far as injuries, I noticed Jordan Woods got some action in, and as you stated, defensively, Jaguars, I guess you could say the best outing number-wise since the McNeese game, and that ended up in the loss. But Jordan Lewis, what's the latest on him as far as is he going to play, or are they just taking it game by game?
Probably a game time decision, but the way he was hurt, it looked like he hurt a hamstring, and I don't think he's going to play. I mean, I don't know for sure. I don't, Coach Rollins doesn't like to talk about injuries, but he looked like he was hurt pretty bad, and hamstrings usually take a while. So if they're without him, though, but you mentioned Jordan Woods, and that's a big help because Davin Cotton probably won't play either. He's had a knee problem that he re-aggravated against Texas Southern. So having him back helps with their rotation in the middle, and that's where you've got to get some push. Southern's going to have to put some pressure on this quarterback, and Jordan Woods is going to help them there. You can rush from the sides, but if you don't have that push in the middle, the quarterback can step up in the pocket and deliver the ball. So those tackles have to not give him any place to step up, and having Jordan Woods is going to be big.
Ray Anderson, 2 sacks last ball game, and seems like he's comfortable now, healthy. They're going to need him as well, as far as the linebacker play. And you said something interesting. Prairie View, Mr. Pass, I call him Mr. Pass. He is a big quarterback, physically can throw it. Prairie View and them can run it. They're balanced. Is this the game Southern's defense? Will they have to step it up even more so to help, and I didn't say stop, help contain Prairie View's offense?
Right. You've got to not worry about giving up yards between the 20s, okay? But you got to clamp down in the red zone. That's where you've got to make them drive. Don't give up big plays. That's what kills you. When somebody runs 75 yards for a touchdown, you didn't even give yourself a chance to play defense. So with this guy, they've got to keep the ball in front of them because Prairie View has a receivers averaging 28 yards a catch. So they're going to be trying to throw deep to him. They're going to try to suck the Southern safeties in and try to get him one-on-one with somebody and throw it over their heads. So, but you got to make them work their way down the field, because the longer your drive lasts, the more chance you have of something going wrong, and a turnover or a penalty. And then when you get in the red zone, the field shrinks, and you can, and then having that breakaway speed it's not as effective when the field is shrunk down like that. So it's not about the yards. It's about not giving up touchdowns and making them kick a field goal, maybe, or making them punt the ball or go for it on 4th and stopping them, but make them work for every yard and make them work on every down.
Like, don't give up explosive plays, big plays. Yeah.
Right.
Make them move, and if they have to score, make them go 10, 11 plays. Make them earn it. Prairie View and them, Coach Dooley, head football coach, their staff, a lot of those guys, I remember them when they were here with Coach Richardson. Coach Dooley, a Louisiana native. I think, Jim, he's going to have his team ready to play, and he would love to come and spoil Southern University's homecoming. You got a chance to talk with Coach Dooley during the week?
Yeah, I talked to him on Monday, asked him a couple of questions. He has some insight on Southern. He's been here. He knows what it's like here. He knows what he's up against, and he came right out and said that. He said, I know where we're going. I know how it's going to be. He's been there for a Southern homecoming. So he's going to have probably some special preparations. He's going to have a couple of trick plays. He's going to try to throw something at Southern that they haven't shown on tape, something that they're not ready for. But he's got a good team. And the thing is, he's had a good team for 3 or 4 years. The last couple of years since he's been trying to build it. And I know 2 years ago, they gave Southern everything they wanted, and Southern came out on top. But this quarterback, he didn't have a quarterback this good. So this Jawan Pass might be the missing piece that Eric Dooley needs to get Prairie View up to Southern's level.
Yeah, one of the things we've talked about on this show, Jim, and let's see if you agree or disagree. And Jim, you can disagree now on this show. Contrary to what the rumor has it, you can disagree. I kind of say Prairie View and Alabama and them were similar offensively. They always can get things done explosive. Then defensively is where they needed to get better. Can we say Prairie View A&M has improved defensively, at least statistically, but are they now getting ready to face some of the tougher opponents coming up, like a Southern University and Alcorn State? Will defense be put to a test in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, they've played Grambling. Grambling's offense is just really awful right now. They've got a very good defense, but their offense is awful, and they have not played the best teams yet. So they got to play Alcorn. They got to play Jackson State. I don't know. What do they? I'm not sure if they play Jackson.
No, but I think they play Alabama State. I know
Alabama State. Yeah, and that's going to be a test for them. So I think they've had until this weekend. And their pre-conference schedule is not exactly really that tough. They got a couple of FCS teams and beat one of them, and so they haven't. I don't think they've really seen an offense as good as Southern's, and I think you're going to see. The wild card is Ladarius Skelton. I think you're going to see a lot more of him than you did last week because they didn't need to use him as much, but he is an effective weapon. And I'll say this again: with the ball in his hands, he's the most difficult player in the conference to tackle. One-on-one. Okay. Most of the time, one guy is not going to tackle him. So they're going to try to get the ball in his hands, whether it's as a wide receiver or maybe you put him in the backfield and pitch it to him. I think we're going to see some of that. He may even take a turn at quarterback. So Prairie View's defense is going to get a real test today.
Now, you usually, and I agree with you, especially with Skelton, we like to say a Skelton package like Taysom Hill with the Saints, but is Skelton close to 100%? I know he had a bone bruise or something like that, and will that dictate whether they will be able to use him more? Because I know Coach Rollins kind of talked about it a little bit about being able to use him more.
Yeah, I think they will. He looked okay, and I don't think they would have played him as much last week. If they felt any concerns about his health, I think they would have spot played. And that's what they did. They spot played him last week, and then they didn't need him. They got so far ahead, they put him in, and they really didn't need him after a while. So it was like save him for the next week. They had that game locked up. So that's one of the reasons I think. And he's had, this bruise. It's actually a deep knee bruise. It's a deep tissue bruise, and they just take a long time to heal because it's not a bruise like you and I get, when we're taking out the garbage,
Yeah, thank goodness.
Which can be dangerous. But
and we're much older.
Yeah, it's very painful, and it makes it hard for him to cut, and especially to cut. So I think you'll see some more of him. They'll need him today. I think he may end up being a key piece in the game today.
Well, Jim, I know I always get a chance to read the article about things that you need to know, what Southern has to do, and then you end up having a prediction. I won't ask you for a prediction on here, but what do you believe Southern has to do to be victorious? If we ask Jim Pompey to give us 3 things.
Well, I would say stop the big play. Don't make Prairie View drive for stuff. They've got a few turnovers this year, so you might be able to force a turnover. I would say run the ball and control the clock and keep them off the field. You know, that wide receiver with 28-yard per catch average scares me. So keep them off the field and win the special teams. Southern special teams has played really well today. They had a fumble punt and a block punt last week, but I think for the most part this year, their special teams has been very good. They got a good kickoff guy, put it in the end zone and make Prairie View start every drive on the 25 or somewhere around there.
And that is interesting. And as I look at the roster, if I didn't know any better, I would say Coach Julie is from Louisiana. If you can just look at this roster, it is, I mean, I think they're close to having as many Louisiana student athletes on the roster than Texas. They're going to be fired up. It's a lot of intangibles. Coach Dooley coming home, literally. Players, Mr. Dumas, another defensive end that I got a chance to meet in Birmingham at Swag Football Media Day. Jim, this has all of the ingredients of a big-time game, and I hope it lives up to it, Jim.
Sort of a Bayou Classic Junior, huh? And those kids, they'd like nothing. They're going to have family in the stands, you know. I mean, this is probably as close as a lot of them get. It's the shortest drive for some of their Louisiana players' families is to come to Southern. And they probably know each other. You know, they probably know some of these players on Southern's team. And so, the competitive fires will burn pretty hot when you get a gumbo like that going. So, I think it would be, and Prairie View hasn't beaten Southern since 2015. So, they may be due and they may feel like they're due and they may feel like this is their time. They're 4-0. They're tops in the division. So, they got to beat Southern if they want to win the division.
Yeah. I mean, it's of course, one game at a time, win the week. 34-28. Southern defeats Prairie View October the 12th, 2019. Series since 1930, 27-56-3. And this game is important for the Jaguars because Jim, what a gauntlet. Prairie View, Alcorn, FAMU, Jackson State, and then the Bayou Classic. You can't look too far ahead. You got to look one game at a time and win the week.
Yeah, and if Southern loses this game, it's going to be real hard to win the West because Prairie View will be 5-0 in conference and they'll have a tiebreaker with Southern. Southern will have 2 losses, so Prairie View would have to lose all 3 of their remaining games for Southern to even have a shot, and Southern will have to win the rest of theirs. So they're pretty much, their backs are to the wall. They got to win, and they pretty much have to win out to be able to have a chance to win the division. So this is a huge game for them. And if they win this game, I like the idea of having momentum going in to Alcorn. Now we all know what Alcorn means. It's like everybody
I'll take my hat off.
There you go. So
my.
So you don't even want to think about Alcorn right now. You got to get this game so you can get momentum going into Alcorn.
Yeah, and that's October the 30th. Next week, Alcorn. And my birthday is October the 29th. What a beautiful birthday present that would be night later, to beat Alcorn.
You'd be willing to wait a day.
On the strike again. Well, Jim, appreciate the time. Make your way through the traffic, leave early, and hey, have a good time at the game. Prairie View and Southern University tonight. Huge matchup.
I'm going to look into that parachute drop, really.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Just parachute right in, and you can get to the press box, and then you're in your own world right there, in there. Jim, appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Carlos. Thanks for having me.
All right. Jim Klein-Peter, he covers Southern University athletics for The Advocate. He joined me here on the Carlos Brown Show. I'm going to take a time out. When I come back, scheduled to join me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, host of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. He'll join me next, talking Prairie View, the Prairie View perspective. Big matchup tonight, ESPN Plus, 6 p.m. The Jaguars, homecoming 2021. What a way to cap it off if they can pull out the victory, get the victory. I'll be back. You're watching the Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm Coles Brown. You can see I've got on my Columbia blue. You know, I love the Columbia blue. And now my next guest, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, host of Dr. Cavill's inside the HBCU Sports Lab, sporting his purple stripe shirt, and also could double that. There we go, Doc. Prairie View A&M University had that shirt. Also can go as Prairie View as well. Good morning, Doc. How you doing?
Oh yeah, that's it. I'm doing well. It's purposeful. I mean, I didn't want it. Usually I'm highly professional about this and analyst, but you gave me an opportunity to come here and talk about the game. So I wanted everybody to know that yes, today I'm partial. I want the Prairie View A&M Panthers to find a way to get it done. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Be yourself. That's what I want, Dr. Cavill. You are tremendous, the dean of HBCU sports, and looking good. So that's what I want. I love people being themselves and feeling comfortable here on the Coles Brown Show. Dr. Cavill, big matchup, a huge matchup tonight. Prairie View and the Panthers come to A.W. Mumford Stadium, Pete Richardson Field. They're in first place in the Western Division, and they want to come in my humble opinion, Coach Dooley, back home, and come in and be victorious against Southern University. What are your thoughts on this ball game as far as Prairie View and Southern University?
First, let me say thank you for allowing me to join you on your show. You're doing tremendous work there. You've had a chance to bring me on early when I was just a baby in this, if you would, not necessarily in terms of age, but in terms of experience. You brought that to the table, and look where I am now. So a lot of that, I need to give you your kudos and thanks for just giving me the opportunity. But to your point, as you said, you talk about being yourself. That's what the team is going to have to figure out. They're going to have to really be themselves. They cannot let this opportunity be bigger than it is. They can't allow the moment to be bigger than what it is, as they say, right? And so for me, coming on this is usually I get to just be the analyst. But this time, as you said, I don't know about being myself, but I am going to be able to be a fan, and I'm talking to you, but I will be as objective as possible. One of the things that is quintessential in this game, and we always talk about it, but we ignore it as well. The line play on both sides of the ball are going to be extremely important. When Prairie View has had success in this game, they've been able to go toe-to-toe with Southern in terms of the offensive line play. And they've been able to ground out victories and make big plays and allow Southern to understand that they are not intimidated by what's on Southern's chest. As the famous saying says, "It's on our chest" means we are the best. And Southern over the years, certainly the fans, but even their players believe that. So in these type of matchups, oftentimes you're playing the legacy. And that's where it becomes important to Dooley. I think a couple of years ago, he let himself get too carried on in playing that legacy. I think he's now more comfortable and he understands that. Like anybody, he learned his lessons. He's got team that has played up a little more. And in this situation, I think it's more about Prairie View being Prairie View and figuring out ways to just play the game. And I think their talent will speak to the value of them being in a position to win this game.
And I think, man, that's an interesting point because one of the intangibles, and my previous guest, Jim Kleinpeter, we kind of talked about Coach Dooley being from Louisiana. And you're saying don't let the moment be too big. And on the conference call, he talked about, hey, we're looking at it as the game of the week. We got to win this week. Is there an advantage, if I can put it that way, with Coach Dooley being from Louisiana, being in the atmosphere like that on the other side? I think that will help out with his team to kind of, hey, say, we're just going to go in and play our game, execution.
I certainly believe this, especially for the second trip. I don't think it was that case for the first one. But for the second trip, I certainly believe that is the case from the perspective that they've done it before. And many of the players on this team have been into Southern in terms of this 3 or 4 year cycle about what Southern is. So I think that is an advantage. And I think having a lot of players from Louisiana that understand their culture and have a desire to make a statement when they come home, but they've been at it again that they won't overplay themselves. So and then it's just a talented team. I think Prairie View has not gotten the credit in terms of the talent in general just because of their history before 2009 when they were building upon and ultimately got to a championship. People have talked about a little bit about the talent there, but secondly, I will get in is specifically on the defensive side. I think this team is much better defensively than they have been over Dooley's era, if you would, in terms of a team that is built more in terms of the interior line, that can get pressure, that can put their physical presence on a team, which you have seen several times. And it's reflective in their stats being the third ranked defensive team behind what we just about all recognize are two of the best teams defensively in the conference. Jackson at 1, FAMU at 2. People quietly have not really realized that Prairie View's 3. There's been some people that have pointed out when they talk about 3 HBCU SWAT teams that are in the top 10, if you would, in terms of defensive ranking at the NCAA level. So that tells you that is about being physical. And when you play Southern, if nothing else, you got to understand that you got to be physical, because Southern believes in most cases that they're supposed to win. So you got to punch back, not physically, right? But in terms of inside the game, you have to let them know that you're going to be here, and you have to tell the person in front of you, this is going to be at least a 40-minute game.
And you know, that's interesting because if we look in specific game analysis, Southern's offensive line, you saw in Birmingham what happened. They were picked, we were just going to say the best offensive line in the conference and one of the best offensive lines, FCS. Their matchup against Prairie View's front seven. And I give credit. You're right, Prairie View, because we often talk about Prairie View and Alabama and them mirroring each other, especially explosive offensively. Defensively needed some work done. Defensively, Prairie View's gotten better. That matchup, that's one of a few factors. How do you see that matchup, Southern's O-line against Prairie View and them's defensive line? Is that the matchup that we will see the most? Prairie View has to have success in countering Southern's offensive line?
Oh, no doubt. They're going to have to be able to slow down the run. Southern has made it plain to everybody that will listen to them that they want to run the football. They want to control the tempo. They want to be physical. They want to wear you down. And so, to their credit, they get it going on offense. That's not really the problem for Southern over this fall. Is offensively, they've been there. You see it in terms of preseason rankings on the offensive line. You've seen it regardless of what quarterback plays. They've been able to pretty much do what they want to do on the offensive line. So defensively, can some of those guys on the defensive line that are credited making plays and tackle, Dumas, the cornerbacks plays, linebackers are playing well. You saw the pick 6 for a touchdown. So they're getting the things. Can they get some of those turnovers and force that? Can they stop the run? You don't want Southern getting 4, 5, 6 yards a spot early in this game, or certainly into the second quarter, because then they'll wear you down, and those 6, 7, 8 yards will turn into 12, 15, maybe some 40, 30, 60-yard runs for touchdowns. So you want to slow that down and kind of keep them behind the chain, 2 and 3 yards. They'll get what they deserve in terms, they'll make some plays, but they can't be able to do that, which really gets you on third down. The third down conversion rate is going to be interesting in this matchup, meaning does Southern find themselves not even having to get the third down because they're converting on second downs, or when they get the third down, is it 2, 3, 4 yards? I don't care what defense you are, maybe Jackson State FAMU, to some degree, Grambling, Prairie View, you can get a couple of those third down stops. We saw even Texas Southern, that doesn't necessarily have the best defense. They were able to come up with one play to stop 1 yard. Those things can happen, but consistency, that doesn't really happen. So you have to get them in a position where it's more advantageous to 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, where they tend to have to pass. Does it mean they can make those plays? Yes, but it's not necessarily what they want to do. In the next spot will be flip it, which is going to be an interesting conversation when we get to the opposing side of what that looks like. Juwan pass in the offense for Prairie View, looking at the defensive side of something.
Well, we can look at that right now, because that's where my most concern is. You said offensively, the Jaguars have been there. When And you go back to that Texas Southern game, Dr. Cavill, if you score 31 points and you have 536 yards of total offense, you would think that team won. No, that didn't happen because Southern gave up 576 yards. And so now it puts us deep defensively. They've been consistently inconsistent. I understand some injuries. That's part of the game. Everybody goes through that. Every team in the conference. It depends on when you get the injuries and how significant they are. With that being said, my most concern is Southern University defense. You know, an explosive Prairie View offense, just like it has been year in, year out, and a balanced offense. Can Southern University force Prairie View to drive down the field? And they've got to cut out the explosive plays. And can they tackle them well? In other words, they've got to get pressure on Mr. Pass. They have to get pressure on him. And I don't think you can stop that offense, but you want to contain it. And that's a challenge for Southern University's defense. And quite honestly, that has me nervous.
Well, that's where I might say I get a little excited. And so I can see why you're a little nervous. Yeah. I mean, we got to play the game, but that's the advantageous if you want to look at some weak spot. Prairie View is really doing a great job, Juwan Pass, in terms of his third down conversion. His passing percentage is extremely high. They like to run the ball, but when they pass, they get big plays, big chunks of yards for touchdowns or big-time third down conversions. And oddly enough, this is a team that can do both. People look at the big pass, but this is a team that has been able to move down the field in key situations and key drives against teams outside of the conferences, in the conferences. When teams look like they may be making a run and making things close, they've been able to answer and spread out and put themselves a little more comfort zone to close out games. Both by running the ball, picking up chunks of yards, picking up key third downs, and passing the ball, even picking up thirds and 7, thirds and 12s, right? Getting big 30, 40, 60-yard pass plays when people sneak up and try to stop the run because they've been successful, gouging them down the field and being able to make big passes. Early in the season, the wide receivers were dropping the ball. Lately, they've been catching those balls. So that's another thing you want to watch out, you know, or they're going to do that. But when you look at it in terms of Brooks, Stewart, and Ahmad, in terms of the running back, can they be successful and help Juwan Pass and the wide receivers be able to come up with some of those big pass plays? So I think it's going to be very interesting when you talk about what's going on here, of what that looks like in those type of matchups with some of these leaders getting it done, rushing the ball, as I said, passing the ball. It's going to be fascinating when you see what that looks like with Juwan Pass, those wide receivers getting it done in so many different ways. Look out for Howard. Jalen Howard is one of those players that you want to keep your eyes on as well.
Yeah. I think Lionel Washington and his staff, defense coordinator, I'm sure they've been burning the midnight oil because it's like it's more a team like Prairie View. You have to dot the I's and cross the T's, and you have more to prepare for a balanced team. If we look at Southern, they are more of a running team than passing. So hopefully they've done their homework and burned the midnight oil in preparing for Prairie View. And got a couple minutes left. Dr. Cavill, once again, appreciate the time here coming on the Carlos Brown Show. I want to ask you for a prediction, unless you just want to give one, but anything else that you would like to add to this big matchup at 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus tonight?
Yeah, again, I like to talk about, as you said, the defense with Washington. Are they able to get their defensive front to be able to make some plays on Prairie View? If they're not able to do that, that means they're going to have to blitz. And I think Prairie View is good enough with Juwan Pass, the difference maker, that if Southern has to blitz because they're not able to get the pressure with the front 4 or even the 7, then Prairie View will be able to take advantage of it. And that's why I look for this game. is that Prairie View will get a chance to get up early, and they'll be able to hold on because it's going to create a different matchup that Southern doesn't want to do. So I won't necessarily predict the score, but I think Prairie View is in a good position to find a way to get this done, and they will essentially come with the victory because of the matchup favors Prairie View in multiple different ways because they'll be able to make some of those key plays. And the defense will do just enough to stop Southern in terms of getting a couple of key turnovers and stopping them on some third downs, if you will.
I think special teams will be huge for the team that wins, whether Southern had a punt block. Yeah. Penalty, Southern had 8 penalties last week. You got to clean that action up. I think Southern's going to want to have 300 yards rushing. If they can do that, that will be 3 weeks in a row. Dr.
They do that. They'll win this game.
Will that be a record?
300 yards, you'll be a happy man and sleeping well for homecoming tonight. They'll win this game if they're able to do. They got to keep, Prairie View has to keep them under 200 some yards rushing or right over 200. They can't let them get to 250, 300. It plays in the Southern hand. I like what you said about special teams. Early in the season, Prairie View was pretty bad, atrocious on special teams, but they've cleaned that up over the last 3 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. In terms of extra points and field goals, they're pretty solid. They can get that play. And so they will look to try to take advantage of maybe blocking a punt or two on that type of special teams. But I only see that as a break even. It'll be interesting to see ebb and flows of this game, how they look. Great point when you talk about special team play.
I think Southern has to limit the possessions of Prairie View. And the best way to do that is time of possession, run the football. And that's what they want to do. And then there's going to be a time where they're going to have to make that critical third down. If it's down in distance, if it's third and long, I'm worried. 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, very manageable.
Yeah.
But, boy, I'm talking like Skelton is the quarterback now. But I think he plays a part. We'll see him somewhere, maybe not at quarterback. And McDaniels and Ethan Howard, the tight end. But Southern's going to want to win the time of possession to do that, running the football. And my thing was, Dr. Cavill, if Southern gets 300 yards rushing, when was the last team in the conference? I guess that's an assignment for me to get back 300 yards games in a season. I'm sure my phone will be lighting up. Someone's going to say, I know the answer. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. Dr. Cavill, appreciate the time. Appreciate it. We'll talk again real soon.
Go Panthers.
And go Jaguars and go SWAT.
Go SWAT.
Right. Yes, sir. That was Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, host of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, joining me here on today's show. Going to take a timeout. When I come back, Jamie Walker and Charles Edmond, they'll join me. Charles is in Houston. Jamie's in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. They're up next. You're watching Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show. Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1. On Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
We are back. For the first time in 62 years, the Florida Memorial Lions will hit the gridiron. And their home games will be streamed by the Black College Sports Network at www.fmuathletics.com, www.mybcsn.net, and on the My BCSN app, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm joined now by Jamie Walker. I simply call him the broadcast analyst, football analyst, and a member of Black College Sports Network, along with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network and Black College Sports Network. Gentlemen, good afternoon for me, and I guess good afternoon for everyone. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
Well. Yeah, I'm kind of still in that Central Standard Time, but I got to remember Eastern Standard Time. But exciting time, some big matchups today in Black College football. Guys, let's start in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Prairie View and Southern University. I guess you all would agree it is the game of the week in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Jamie.
Absolutely. I think it's a pivotal moment, especially for Prairie View, who's getting a lot of accolades, a lot of praise, and deservedly so. They've had a phenomenal season. Breaking in the quarterback finally, Eric Dooley getting, he's always had good offenses, but, putting a total team together is now at the forefront of what this team can be. And so going against Southern, who's been up and down. You really can't tell record wise, but it's been, a challenge bringing in, a new coach, new philosophies in certain ways, switching around at quarterback, just really trying to find,
really things both offensively and defensively. You thought the defense would come in and be that staple while the offense would kind of catch up, but it's kind of been, I guess, even for both sides of the ball. So Southern's still a solid program, still a solid football team. But I think when you're talking about Prairie View being up there, I don't think people had them pegged to be as high as they are right now. So they've been playing phenomenal football. So this would be a definite test. I don't know who has the pressure more, being Southern's homecoming or, Prairie View being up there number one. You don't know who has the pressure.
So some interesting comments from Jamie. And what I'm hearing is that if I'm interpreting right, and Jamie will correct me if not, a Southern football team has been consistently inconsistent, but overall, offensively, they've been getting it done. But wow, defensively is where this team tonight has to make a tremendous stand. Like last week against University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, although they've had problems, Southern was able to get it done defensively. Charles, Prairie View, under Coach Julie, 4-0 against Grambling State, 0-3 against Southern University, 0-3 against Alcorn, and 0-3 against Jackson State. Can Prairie View break through with an improved defense, Charles Edmond?
I think they can. I don't know if they will tonight. I think that this is obviously a huge game. And when you and I have had these conversations when it comes to Southern University, what have I always said about what Southern is missing? Defensively, they still got some things to work through, but they're on the upside right now. The running game or lack thereof. We know about KD in the NBA. Well, Southern has their own KD, Kobe Dillon. And so, rushing for almost 300 yards last week. And if that continues and you get a serviceable quarterback in McDaniel, and if the defense can take it up another notch, Southern's going to be the team to beat. I think that's all that's been missing. I think the commitment to running the football when it doesn't work. Alcorn does that. That's why, in part, that they've been so successful over the last 6 years, winning 6 straight division titles. Our coaches say the running game doesn't always work, but we're going to stay committed to it. We're going to stay true to it. I think other teams in this league don't do that, and I think that's where the downfall comes in. Southern has found a stud that can tote the mail as a freshman, a young kid. If that continues, then I think Southern will be a force to be reckoned with the rest of the way. We'll see, though. And as you said, homecoming, pressure game, playing at home, and you and I have talked about this. Doesn't matter what sport. It seems like Southern tenses up at home. It's homecoming. It's going to be a packed house. Southern has no margin for error in the Western Division standings. They've got to get it done today. If this is going to happen under Coach Rollins this year, this has to be the game, because if they don't get it done, then that Alcorn game doesn't have nearly as much meaning, because Southern will be on the outside looking in.
And Jamie mentioned about pressure. I think it's equal between both, Jamie, because Prairie View, I gave the stats against, they've had success against Grambling, but 0-3, 0-3, 0-3. This is an opportunity for them to step up and win those type of games. For Southern University, no margin for error. And I'm surprised Charles didn't get in a Ladarius Skelton comment in there, but I know we still got a segment left. He's going to get it in. But Rollins, if Southern loses today, it basically over. To me, mathematically they still may have a chance, but so it is pressure on both sides, guys. And whoever handles this pressure, it's homecoming, but that's for everybody else. The teams have to come out and execute. So with that being said, Jamie, I'm just going to put you on the spot. Who do you think wins this ball game tonight?
They have been my dark horse pick from the beginning. I'm going to ride them out because I love what they had coming back out of the spring into the fall. Hadn't been to expectations because they haven't run the table. But I think Southern wins this. I think Southern pulls it out. I think You know, when you're talking about a team that's been 0-3, but has won against other opponents in that division, I tell you what, you know, you may have just switched my pick as far as the who is more pressure packed in relation to who wins the ball game. But you know, you're talking about a high powered offense for Prairie View, but I think that running game of Southern behind that young freshman, along with really running from the quarterback as well. If they can control the clock just a little bit more, I think they can pull it out based on their playing at home. But it wouldn't surprise me either way. But putting me on the spot, I'm gonna go Southern.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Southern as well. I think, like I've said, the missing piece has been a solid running game. It looks like they've got that now. You know, I think Southern will win the game, although, and just thinking about it just in the last few seconds, there is a lot of pressure on Dooley. He's done everything but, you know, win the West. He's beaten Grambling. He's beaten Southern. And, you know, you take a look at those games. He can't win the big games. This is a big one. It's a big one right here. And all the work that he's done in improving the defense, he's got an offense. He can't beat Southern. And it's going to be, you know, I think it's going to be pressure. He still might win the division, though, because Southern's road still is tough the rest of the way with Jackson State coming up, Alcorn next week. So he still might be, his margin of error is a little bit more than Southern. Southern has no room for another loss. But there is more pressure on Dooley, though, because he's been there. I think he's done everything but win the games he's supposed to win in the big moments. And this is a big moment.
I don't want to look ahead, but I'm telling you now, Charles, if my mental state, Alcorn, if Southern doesn't take care of Alcorn, I'm going on the hunger strike. I'm going on the hunger strike because then that would be, oh my goodness. Let me not even think too far ahead. Got to get through this game this week. Offensive player of the week in the conference, we've talked about him, Kobe Dillon, 14 carries for 267 yards. And he didn't play that much in the fourth quarter. And the way they were opening holes, he could have come close to Mr. Arnold's record in the Southwestern Athletic Conference with 345 yards. But hey, that's like a 19 yards per carry average. He's the offensive player of the week. The special defensively, Chad Foster, 3 INTs. Not a lot of talk on this show today, but let's do it now. 5'7" safety. He's a ball hawk. He's better against the run, but against apparently his pass defense was great. 3 interceptions in the game. Sometimes, guys, you don't get that it may take you a whole year to get 3 interceptions, right?
Yes,
definitely.
So he was able to get it done. And newcomer Corbin finished with 113 yards and 1 touchdown in a 28-7 Jackson State win over Alabama State on Saturday. So those were the players of the week in the conference. And if I can, guys, now let's kind of look at the other games in the week. Charles, Alcorn State, got a chance to listen to that ball game, and Alcorn gets it done. If it's a close ball game, Alcorn gets it done, but 24-12 over Mississippi Valley State.
Yep. We won the close games. It's come down to our defense, but it has to get better offensively. The bottom line is, Carlos, with this Braves team offensively, you got to get better play at the quarterback position. Felix Harper, 2019, we saw Felix Harper. Ever since then, we've seen Trigger Man. They call him Trigger Man. And some people would say, I want to see Felix Harper. I don't want to see Trigger Man, because Felix Harper was something special in 2019. We got to go back to that Felix Harper. He has had his struggles. He's overthrown some receivers. Some plays have been there. We've left money on the field, as one of our running backs told me early in the week. Felix Harper has struggled. And so we need a good game from Felix Harper if we're going to get to where we need to be. We've scraped by these last 2 weeks. 2 or 3 plays that were made by the other team, Grambling and Valley. We make 2 or 3 plays. If we don't, then instead of where we are, we got maybe a couple of losses. Valley had a first down inside our 5. It was taken off by a penalty. If they score there, it's a 2-point game in the fourth quarter. Grambling turns it over twice in the fourth quarter. quarterback fumbles the ball. I mean, just those little things, yeah, we'll take them. But, you got to be able to put it away, and you got to be able to be consistent offensively. So, give Valley credit. Their defense is tough. And I tell you what, they're going to give FAMU all they can handle today, because Valley still has an outside shot at this Eastern Division race, believe it or not. If you look at the Eastern Division standings, Valley has Jackson next week. They got FAMU this week. So Valley's going to play with everything they've got. They're going to throw everything at it today, because if they get it done, knock out A&M, then clearly, FAMU's going to be out of it. And there's Jackson and Valley next week. But that's a whole nother topic. But I tell you what, Valley's up and coming. They're 3 or 4 players away from being really, really good from what I saw last week, just looking at some of the film. But we got a tough road to hoe, and we got to play better offensively if we're going to get to where we need to be.
And we've heard this a lot this year about Valley up and coming. We can't say that they play hard. They're a couple of players away. If they had more scholarships, what are your thoughts on Mississippi Valley State?
I've always thought that under Coach Danzy, especially when they made that change, that his enthusiasm and his philosophy was perfect for what that program needed. It was a matter of bringing in, of course, his kind of players, fast, physical, tough ball players that wanted to be in the program. And I think buy-in was a huge part of what they wanted down there. Was able to talk to him in Swag Media Days, and just the enthusiasm he had for the program and wanting to build a perennial winner was evident, just permeating off of what, he was talking. So it was kind of one of those things where, okay, I can see where he's going. And of course, lots of coaches are enthused when they finally, get their shot at, the head coaching position. But it was something different. And so what they've been able to do really over the last couple of years of seasons was for him to be able to have this team really, number one, play a consistent brand of football. That means, you're not the perennial doormat of the league. You're actually playing consistent football that's competitive. Number one. Number two, this year they've been able to be in with some teams that you would never see them, hang with before, and actually be put in a position to possibly win their division. That's huge. And so it could springboard this program going forward. The scholarships are a problem, and that, that's something they have to fix it along with some, other internal things that may be deterrents. But at the same time, if you're looking at just them on the field, they are preparing to win and have the expectations to take that next step. So I love what they're doing so far. I love, what the program is and what they can be.
Well, on that note, this is a perfect time to take a timeout, gentlemen. We'll take a timeout. When I come back, it'll be more of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return shortly.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show. Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Jamie Walker, Charles Edmond joining me. We were talking about Valley before the timeout and interesting conversation during the break. Coach Nancy never talks about what he doesn't have, but I guess we were all in agreement. If he had the resources that he needed on the FCS level, realistically, you could see 6-7 wins a year, and I'm sure that would be the goal plus some. I know you guys agree with that.
Most definitely. I think, any program that's been, for lack of a better term, lower as far as not getting the amount of wins that they want, and then having all the available resources possible. Most definitely. And then the way that the alignment goes in the East in particular, I think you have an opportunity to pick off some teams. Even though you have some newer teams to the division, I mean, hey, it's new. They haven't played your brand of ball, and it's not saying that, you're going to be dominant or anything of that nature, but, anything that's new, has to cycle through where they're playing. So most definitely, if he had those available resources, I see why not. I think they're coached well. And I think they're, on the rise if they're able to get some of those resources.
Yes, Charles, I should be clear. They have the potential to win 6 games, a year consistently, because we look at Valley, they still play a tough non-conference schedule, particularly in the FCS realm. But all things being equal, we feel highly of Coach Dancy and his coaching ability and to put together a staff.
Yeah, I talked to him at Media Day as well. And, for those who might not know, Vincent Dancy played his college football at Jackson State. So he understands the SWAC. He understands what it's all about. And his team is taking his identity. He was a defensive player in the SWAC at Jackson State. So when you think of Valley now, you think of defense first. Their defense got it done against Bethune, against Central. And they, they kind of held us in check. But, the whole thing about the financial piece and building the program, you want to get that revenue in. And because of their situation, they cannot play those FBS schools like UAPB's playing at Arkansas today. They're playing an FCS heavy schedule. The payouts are not quite as big. So it does impact the bottom line. But he's doing the best with what he has. He doesn't complain. He doesn't bellyache or gripe. He takes what he's got, and he's making it work. And I tell you what, I know Brian Fulford's producing the show today. His Rattlers are up at Inapina. Tell you what, Willie Simmons better bring it, because if the game is close in the fourth quarter, Valley has found a way to pull it out if it's close in the fourth quarter. We'll see, but Valley's definitely on the rise.
We'll see. That's a good term to use. I mean, hey, we know A.D. Drew loves Mississippi Valley State, and he predicts the rise will come. Last week, Prairie View A&M gave up 250-ish yards rushing to Bethune-Cookman. Boy, had to come back late and win that ball game, 35-29, Prairie View. Bethune-Cookman guys, 7-game losing streak in the conference. Do I have to say the best 0-7 team in FCS? Will they get a victory? They've won, 9 straight? If I don't get that right, I'm sure Bethune-Cookman alum will get me. But what has to happen for Bethune-Cookman? Charles, will they eventually rise up and bite somebody?
Yes, they are one of my spoilers from the East, and it's scary because if they make 4 or 5 more plays, they probably have 2 or 3 more wins. That's how close they've been so far. And we got to go to Daytona in 2 weeks, and so that I'm putting a circle around that game on the calendar because they're close. So yes, it's been tough sledding for Coach Sims. There's been a lot of belly aching. It's time for a change and all that. Just relax, be patient. It's been tough, but they're right there. Yes, they are a spoiler, and yes, they will break through. And they're going to ruin somebody's day, or before it's over with, they can ruin somebody's season. Don't know which one, but look out. You better be ready to play Cookman each and every Saturday.
David, does Coach Sims deserve a chance to turn it around? I read an article, I think about HBCU game. They were saying that the administration set Coach Sims up to fail.
They absolutely did. You have a lot of financial woes going on there. A lot of stuff going on with the athletic department, new athletic director, a lot of changes that have gone on within that. That HBCU game day article kind of details a lot of what's going on that has, kind of trickled down to the football team, where preparation has been affected. Nonetheless, Coach Terry Sims is a phenomenal coach. Despite everything that's gone on, this team comes out prepared. It hasn't translated into wins yet, and that's the most hurtful part, because what you can see, depending on how the administration goes, is a phenomenal football coach let go because of circumstances beyond his control. But yes, they are going to get somebody, because what this team is able to do is they come out and play hard every day. In the beginning of the year, they almost beat a FBS team. What I'm saying? They were right there with them. I looked at that game. I think it's, UTSA or one of those schools. UTEP. Yeah, UTEP. So it was one of those things. Okay, they're coming out, doing their thing. So they have the potential absolutely to go, to come up and bite somebody and get someone. We don't know who, but I think they do play spoiler as well, because they can, control the clock. They can play high, up tempo. They can throw the ball down the field. They can play good defense. They can rush the passer. So it's one of those things that, they have all the tools to be able to do some things. They were probably behind the 8 ball as far as preparation and things of that nature. But as this team is kind of rounded into shape and just playing spoiler in general, ask FAMU every year. When you see when seemingly Bethune-Cookman is out of it or not in contention, they're gonna get somebody. And so the hope is like Charles said, maybe not the Braves, maybe it's the Rattlers, or maybe it's somebody else. So we'll see. But I think they do have the potential to get somebody before the year's out.
I can see Brian Fuller and FAMU alum. Bethune-Cookman, no wins coming in that ball game. That's their Super Bowl. It's always that way. But I guess I better not get too far ahead, because FAMU alumni will be going on a hunger strike with me. They feel the same way how I feel about Southern and Alcorn. FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. It's interesting how these matchups goes. Let me give the rest of the scores quickly, and we move to this week's schedule for October 23rd. FAMU over Alabama A&M 35-31. Grambling State over Texas Southern 34-20. Of course, we talked about it. Southern over Pine Bluff 34-7. Jackson State over Alabama State 28-7. And Alcorn State 24-12 over Mississippi Valley State. Alabama A&M on a 3-game losing streak. Bethune-Cookman, a 7-game losing streak. Arkansas Pine Bluff, a 5-game losing streak. But Alabama A&M, quite simply, Charles, they have not recovered after that severe beating by Jackson State. And now you've got fans are pretty upset. I'm hearing everywhere from Alabama and them needs O-line and defensive line help. I've read comments where Coach Maynard's fool's gold. I've also heard that spring championship. Is it tainted? I'm not going to say that, but I will talk about this team now on a 3-game losing streak, and they were up by 18 against FAMU, and they lost it, Charles. They just simply lost it.
Yep. And what I've been saying for the last month and change is that what A&M has been doing is unsustainable. And at some point in time, it was all going to blow up on them. And it has. It started with Grambling, and then Jackson State just blew it out the water. And what's frustrating about that, if you're an A&M fan, is that Jackson State had a lot of questions about their offense coming off the bye week leading into Alabama A&M game. Sanders was banged up. They were trying to figure out where they were going to get their offense from, and you saw what happened there. I think Coach Maynard is going to probably blow it up on the defensive side of the ball, kind of on the opposite of what Fobbs did on the offensive side of the ball in the offseason. I think you're going to see all new personnel there. For A&M, this was a matter of time before it catches up with you. 2019, it was that way. Spring, it was that way. You just can't keep winning 42-41. At some point, your defense is going to be really, really bad, and you don't fix it, or your offense is just going to have an off day. And that's exactly what's happened. All the wrong variables came together against Jackson State. And, you scored enough points against FAMU, but you just can't get it done. I mean, so you got to blow it up on the defensive side of the ball, because without defense, without getting off the field, you have no chance. So for A&M, it's going to be tough, with the Magic City right around the corner. I think that's going to be a tough deal the rest of the way. He got his championship. I don't think it's tainted. I'm on the record saying that, the spring, we had a season, despite how it went down. Alabama A&M is your conference champ. A lot of people don't agree with it, but, I respect the fact that they won the spring, they won the season. We had a season, but they're not going to be, they're not going to get a chance to repeat. But no asterisk in my book, but they got to clean up a lot of stuff on the defensive side of the ball. And Glass has to protect the football better. The turnovers have hurt him on the offensive end. That was going to come back and get him too at some point. You just can't keep slinging it all over the yard, putting it on the ground, and expect to win. So they got a lot to fix here in the second part of the season.
Jamie Charles, to be honest, you got to keep him upright. He's not the most athletic person in the world, but if you give him time, he's proven to be very accurate. But they've got some O-line issues, some defensive line. Charles, I absolutely agree. You were spot on. You said he was going to catch up to them. Now, Jamie, you can speak on Alabama A&M as well, but Arkansas Pine Bluff and Alabama A&M, the spring participants, they're not going to be there for the fall. Most disappointing, Alabama A&M, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, in your book.
Honestly, I think UAPB is more disappointing, simply because the expectation and them really putting the respect banner on themselves, saying no one was considering them, of the upper echelon of the SWAC, was big time. And so I think them saying, okay, we're gonna go get our respect because no one is giving it to them. Well, hey, now you see why. So I think they're the more disappointing, just for that reason. They had the opportunity to really solidify their program with the they lost some skill position players, but they still had enough, including Skylar Perry at quarterback, to come in there and really, along with defensively, to go out and say, here, I'm gonna make this statement and prove that we are one of the upper echelon programs, especially in the West. And they have laid an egg, absolute egg, and have gone down and really on a quick slope down, because it hadn't been pretty football from them at all, and they're getting considerably worse as the season is going on. Alabama A&M had you saw this offense going in. You thought they would continue that ride. I think Charles is exactly right. I think it kind of echoes the sentiments of what he said about Felix Harper, talking about Aqeel Glass, because the protection of the football is paramount when you're playing quarterback. And I think, it's great that he's able to chuck it around the yard, but along with that, you can't give it to the other team, as much as he has. Offensive line, play has been a factor in that as well. But, UAPB is probably more disappointing for me than A&M.
Charles, I somehow think you may say Alabama A&M. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no. Alabama A&M is. I'm sorry. You're correct. Alabama A&M to me is the more disappointing team because they brought everybody back. Aquil Glass went on social media and said, "Let's bring the band back. Let's run it back." And you had all those pieces back, but you still have the holes that you didn't fix. And so that's the disappointing part about it. And as a coach, I get it in the sense of when you're winning, you want to keep going and keep doing the way that you've been doing it. In the 42 to 41 games, we break it down, we overanalyze it, but the coaches are saying, hey, we got to win. And that's all that matters. There's no such thing as a bad win, as a former coach once told me. But it does catch up with you in that sense. Now, for UAPB, if I'm not mistaken, they were picked to finish fifth, was it? In the fall? Was it fifth?
Yeah, it wasn't near the top.
Yeah. They were picked to finish fifth. And I argued that point. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's a defending Western Division champs. But what hasn't been talked about, they lost a lot of pieces from the spring to the fall. Their OC left to go to Mississippi Valley. A lot of people transferred out. It wasn't talked about in Pine Bluff. Doc Gamble didn't talk about it. So there were some pieces missing there. Now, albeit I think Pine Bluff hasn't been the same team since they blew a 26-7 lead against Alcorn.
That's what I'm going to say. That's like a defensive back getting burned 3 times in a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he shell shocked. And Charles, I think that's a big factor. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you lose your first division game, that was the first game that Alcorn played as a member of the West. You on national TV, you blow a 26-7 lead. That knocks a lot of life out of you. Now, granted, it's still early in the season, you can recover from it, but Pine Bluff hasn't. Peary hasn't looked very good. That defense is worn down. I think the offense is the problem right now because they can't produce enough points, and their defense is staying on the field too long. So a lot of disjointed pieces there in Pine Bluff. I am more disappointed in Alabama A&M considering they brought the band back. Everybody was back, and yet they still have the same problems and eventually just caught up with them. If they were winning games this way, then we wouldn't be talking about it. But because Grambling exposed them and Jackson kind of finished it off, now we're talking about it. And that happens with wins and losses. When you lose, the cover gets blown off of you because now you get to see everything. When you're winning, you can kind of let it settle a little bit and not talk about it.
It's going to be interesting because I'm listening to you guys, and if you can look at the teams in the conference that have had quarterback issues or returning quarterbacks who have not, interesting to hear you say about Felix Harper. I follow some Alcorn fans, and they say he hasn't played up to expectations. Glass. Is Shedeur Sanders playing the best right now as far as the quarterback? If you forget about the preseason and the all conference team, is Shedeur Sanders playing the best at the quarterback position in the conference right now?
Absolutely. To me he is, because I think he has more of a command of what their offense requires than anyone. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. He's poised, and it's amazing just how poised he is as a freshman, coming in and running that offense. You can tell he's been within that offense before. He knows the nuances of it. He knows, him being able to look in the spring, see what they're doing, and kind of go against it. It was like, it wasn't. It was the worst kept secret that he was going to take over in the fall. But it was one of those things where he has come in. You saw some jitters during the FAMU game where he dropped the ball and it was wet out there as well. But kudos, he is improved both as a passer and a runner within that offense. So yeah, I think for what he doesn't sling the ball all around the yard like other quarterbacks in the league. But what he does is he's efficient with the ball. He takes care of it. And he continues to complete passes. And that's all you want when you're playing quarterback, that field general that's able to lead the offense going forward. And oftentimes, they're very efficient. You saw the 61 points against A&M, yes. But, those times where, the offense, the running game may have been shut down, just him being able to be a calmness to that offense, it's well beyond his years as far as him playing. I mean, it's amazing to see.
Because I can also believe that Mr. Pass, one pass for Prairie and him, chance to see him tonight. I think you've got to put him up there in the conversation. 6'4", 6'5", 228. Put him up there. I mean, I guess if you had the not preseason, but if you had the all conference selection right now based on what has happened so far, okay, he's one or two. I'll let y'all debate that, but just didn't want to leave him out.
No, absolutely. I mean, when you look at Prairie View situation, you look at Jackson State. I mean, right now, Shedeur Sanders has exceeded my expectations. Alcorn had a freshman quarterback named John Gibbs back in several years ago. And when you're dealing with a freshman, it's always hit or miss. Being on the big stage, is the game too fast for you right now? And so what you're saying is that offensive coordinator T.C. Taylor has kind of, put forth a system for Sanders to handle. And Jackson State had 149 yards rushing the football last week and 2 touchdowns. Quarterback's best friend is what? A running game. We've been talking about it, the whole first segment about running the football. And so when you have a good running game, it settles your quarterback down. And I think that's what you're seeing. And I think for Prairie View, it's the same way. You've got to be able to run the football to be able to settle your quarterback down. And that's what you're seeing for Sanders. That's what you're seeing at Prairie View. Alcorn has had some dynamic, rushing games. Nico Duffy, another 100-yard effort. But Felix Harper's trying to settle in, and it's been a struggle. But, clearly, I think for Jackson State, Shedeur Sanders, he's exceeded my expectations so far. Got some tough games coming up, though. I mean, Bethune's not going to be an easy out. Valley's not going to be an easy out. And so for JSU, they still got games against Western Division teams, Alcorn, Texas Southern, and Southern. So, a big chunk to go. But right now, those two, BVU and Jackson State, probably the top 2 quarterbacks in the league right now.
Well, now the upcoming games in the conference today, Saturday, October 23rd. Charles, I did say next Saturday. My greatest gift would be my birthday next Friday, a win against Alcorn. But we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, as I don't want to go on another hunger strike. I tell you. Pine Bluff at Arkansas, which has already started, 11 a.m. SEC Network. Someone give me a score on that one. I'm sure we can be all in agreement. Arkansas, not only will they win, but it will be by how much? Agreed, gentlemen?
Agreed.
All right, we'll move on to that. Bethune-Cookman at Jackson State, 1 p.m. ESPN Plus. Coach Sanders, I suggested that you coach in the press box, but I don't think he's a type of guy that likes to be away from the action, but he's not coaching. Doctor's order. Bethune-Cookman at Jackson State. Jackson State, I predict that, got to highlight. They'll win, but Bethune-Cookman could make it a ball game for a while, but JSU's defense, pains me to say this, Charles, you know this, but Jackson State defense is the main reason, number one reason that they're off to a good start, and Jackson State will win at home. You gentlemen?
I agree with that as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jackson State, but I'm gonna throw some
wait a minute,
in there.
But? Oh, Jamie,
but,
it's a but. But watch out for Charles. Here is a curveball, a knuckle curve.
All right, so they had 53,000 in the house last week for Bama State. Big win and all the hoopla with that. You come back this week against Bethune, and Bama State wasn't in the race. I mean, that was a win. That was a good win. But you come off a big homecoming win like that, you're at home. You're probably not going to have 53,000 in the house today, and you could have a little letdown. That's my only thing. We've seen this, and I know you're shaking your head. I know, yeah, but Coach Sanders is not going to be there. There is a little bit of a difference, and I think if Jackson starts fast at home, which they should win the game. But let's see if they bring that same intensity today. Let's see if they do that. My prediction, yes, Jackson State, but I think Bethune will play them tough.
I knew you were not going to say Bethune-Cookman with the upset special of the week.
No.
Although they have some in the HBCU world that believe that that's going to be the upset of that will be the upset of the month. Could be upset of the year, but on any given Saturday. FAMU at Mississippi Valley State, 3 p.m. Mississippi Valley State Athletics. Catch it on YouTube, 3 p.m. Valley, they're better than the record indicates. They're better than last year. Hell, they're better than 2 years ago. With all that being said, they will play tough. They will play hard. They will show up. I still like FAMU, albeit I don't think it'll be a blowout. Mississippi Valley State will play them tough, but I got to go with FAMU on this one, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm gonna go FAMU too. Just in the same regard as kind of the way they played Alcorn as well. I think it'll be close. I think 2 touchdowns. A 2-touchdown win is evident, but I think it'll look a certain way going into the fourth quarter. I think it'll be a surprise, but I think ultimately FAMU pulls away. They've already shown their capability of pulling away from opponents in the fourth quarter and coming back. So I think it's no different. I think FAMU wins.
Yeah, my prediction, at the beginning of the season, I predicted FAMU to win the East. It's not looking like it at this point. But FAMU's got to win this game. They got to pretty much run the table to have a chance and hope Jackson State stumbles. I will say this, though, in Washington Valley last week, they have a solid running game. They got a back that's 5'9", 210 as a bowling ball. He'll run through you. He'll run over you. And if Valley can get off to a fast start and run the football and chew up clock, because their quarterback, Easton, can't push the ball down the field. That's what they tried to do last week. They couldn't do it. Braves really did a good job in boxing him up. They got to be able to push it down the field. If they do that, then I think they'll have some offensive success. Do I see that happening, considering FAMU's defense is much improved from what we've seen early in the year? I don't see it happening today. I do have FAMU winning the game.
Well, I think we're all in agreement with that. We kind of talked a little bit about Prairie View and Southern, but for those who maybe just tuning in, Prairie View A&M at Southern University. Charles Edmond, your prediction again on that ball game, Prairie View A&M and Southern University, A.W. Mumford Stadium, Pete Richardson Field, 2021 homecoming for Southern University.
I tell you what, that homecoming atmosphere of Mumford is electric. It took me an hour and 18 minutes to get from the base of the hump to my parking spot when we played there a couple years ago for the homecoming. And so it's going to be electric. It's a huge game. Southern's got to win it, and I think they will. I think they get it done, and it sets the stage for a terrific game next week when we roll down there. I'm going with Southern 35-31. I think it's going to be a shootout, a lot of points. Southern will win the game 35-31.
Jamie?
I think Southern will win it too. And I'll tell you what, Charles, hey, that's about the score I would predict as well, if not higher. I would go somewhere in the neighborhood of 42-35. I think it is a shootout as well.
Yeah.
These shootout games makes me nervous. Maybe I'm just nervous in general. I actually think a high-scoring game maybe favors Prairie View. But I look at, as I told Dr. Cavill earlier, I look for Southern University. By the way, guys, if Southern gets 300 yards rushing, and I thought, well, no, Prairie View A&M's defense has improved, but then Bethune-Cookman had 249, 250 yards rushing, and I believe Southern's rushing game is better than Bethune-Cookman. If Southern gets 300 yards rushing, Charles, Tell me the last team that had back to back to back 300+ yards rushing. I couldn't tell you off the bat. I'll have to research that one, Charles.
Yeah.
But it could have. I said all that to say this. You got to limit Prairie View's possessions. The best way to do that ground and pound. Southern's O-line the best in the conference, no doubt about it. They're able to do that. They're going to run to set up the pass. I think it may be a play-action pass on the first play, maybe the second. But I think they will do that offensively. Defensively is where my most concern is for Southern University. Got to tackle well. You got to make Prairie View drive the field, and you got to cut back on the explosive plays, giving them up. No missed tackles, tackle well in space. With that being said, I like Southern University 31-28. Wow. I'm not going as high as you guys, because if it's a high-scoring game, I think it just favors Prairie View. You can't stop Prairie View's offense, but what you want to do is contain, control, limit their touches, and pound. And then McDaniels and Skelton, there you go, Charles, Skelton, he will play in this game in some capacity. You utilize that, and you're able to run to set up the pass. And special teams, they got to cut down on crucial penalties. And, of course, Devon Ben is scheduled to be back. We may see others playing offensively. I like Southern University, 31-20.
Well, I will say this, Carlos, and I'll just put it out there now. If Southern rushes for 308 this week and limit the possessions, it could be a blowout. It could be a blowout because you're going to take time off the clock. You're going to limit those possessions. If Southern gets that type of productivity running the football, chewing up clock, chewing up yards, and wearing down that Prairie View defense, if Southern's defense steps up like it's had here lately, the game may not be close. But if that doesn't happen, if you put it in the hands of McDaniels, 10 of 17, 69 yards last week, that's what I think is going to make it close, because then your offense is not quite as productive. But if Southern can ground and pound it like that and wear Prairie View's defense down, it may be more one-sided than we think, but I don't expect that to happen. I think it's going to be a closer game because of it. I think they're going to sling it all over the yard, and I think Prairie View will get more possessions.
Interesting. Folks, let me know. The Coles Brown Show at gmail.com, or you go on Facebook, messenger page, Facebook page, the Coles Brown Show. We got 2 games left, one in the SWAC and one in the SIAC, and then we will be out until next week. Guys, Alcorn State at Texas Southern. Of course, Charles is in Houston, his favorite city outside of his city he's living in now. And Charles, that will come back to haunt you, trust me. Alcorn State at Texas Southern. We'll start with Jamie, and then we'll go to Charles. Jamie, who you got in this ball game?
I think Alcorn wins it. I think it's just a matter of their offense needing to show balance. Nico Duffy has had a phenomenal season. I think, when you're looking at, as we were talking about quarterbacks, if you're able to just keep the offense within what Felix Harper is able to do and run with more balance, I think you can wear that Texas Southern defense down, who is much improved as well. They've been able to do some things and show some fighting games as well. So, it kind of like a Bethune, talented, really just, hadn't had things break their way, although they've won, a couple of games. So it's a thing of really, you may want to take some of the high-powered potential to actually have a solid offensive attack for Alcorn, and I think they still win handily.
Mr. McDuffie, Harper have to be on the same page defensively. I don't believe, and I'll take my hat off for this one. I don't believe that Alcorn State will give up 576 yards against Mr. Body, the freshman sensation. I just don't see that happening. I would say if that does happen, I'd shave, but I'm already shaved. I just think Alcorn, they're going to get it done. Some kind of way, somehow, they get it done. And that's a kudos to Coach McNair and his staff. However, I'm going to say like Charles, I say however and but. If you let him, Mr. Body, and Texas Southern offensively hang around, get big plays, they could make things very, very interesting. But I like Alcorn State in this ball game. And I'll even give you a score on this one. 28-17. Alcorn State over Texas Southern. Charles, I don't know. I saw the expression on your face. Maybe you thought I was going for a wild prediction. Nah.
No. I agree with you. Look, we're facing our second freshman quarterback in 3 weeks. You know, we saw Bowden against Grambling, and he was 10 of 27. In the last 2 weeks, we faced two quarterbacks, 18 of 51 passing. I think Texas Southern's going to sling it all over the yard. We've done a good job with that. We just have to get out of our own way. You know, the first play of the game against Valley, a bad exchange on the read option. We lose 19 yards, and just all this, you know, we never could really get on track for that. We got to start fast. And Texas Southern, you know, they're that spoiler role. I think you're in two categories. You're either a contender or you're a spoiler. And either one of them are tough to deal with. And Texas Southern's in that spoiler role. That loss to Grambling really hurt their chances. They're playing at Compass Stadium where it's going to be a great atmosphere. We got to start fast and play 4 quarters of football. It's going to come back and get us at some point. I hope it's not today. I hope we play 4 quarters of football. But I expect that running game, which has been dynamic. Nico Duffy, 4 100-yard rushing outings. And with Stafford Anderson back, if we can get our running game going, take it out of Felix's hands a little bit, and if he can make the throws, manage the game, the way our defense is playing, I think we'll be just fine. But, you know, if we have a special teams leak, if we put it on the ground, if we turn it over, let Texas Southern hang around. You know, Coach McKinney's got that team playing a little bit. I mean, they found a quarterback that's one of the best in the state of Texas coming out of high school. He's going to be good. He's going to be good down the road. And let's just hope it's not today. But the Braves got to come out fast, play 4 quarters. I think they'll get it done.
Damien, SIAC, your expertise?
Yes.
Fifth one, Albany State and Savannah State. Tell us about that. We've got, well, I guess about 5 minutes left here on today's show.
Okay. Well, you know, when you're looking at these two opponents, really, you're talking about higher ranked opponents in Division II, you know, who have the potential to both make the playoffs if some, you know, there's some scenarios in there, and, you know, the selection is for lack of a better term, convoluted, but they both have the chance to be in the playoffs. Albany State right now, under, you know, quarterback Deontay Banu, it has been phenomenal. Balanced offense, coached by, you know, Gabe Gardenia. They are a run first, although they have shown big play potential, have played teams tough, and, you know, who they call the dirty blue defense has been able to stop people on hand. On the other side with Savannah State, Devon Gibbons, who's their quarterback, they play a 2-quarterback system as well. Devon Gibbons runs the option a little bit better. D'Angelo Durham, their running back, is that bell cow who sets the stage for their running game. They run the option well, but they'll take they have a freshman quarterback who's able to come in, throw passes, and, you know, they'll switch them in and out, similar to Southern, crazy enough. But, you know, they're you know, 2 phenomenal offenses. I think Albany State's defense is a little bit better, although Savannah State can rush the passer. You know, quite frankly, with their front 4, I think, you know, the defense of Albany State really is a team where they're able to stop you both ways. Their secondary is great. They run a hybrid 3-4 where they are all over the field and can really stop the run well with that front 3. So I think they have a little bit better advantage, although Savannah State can score. they have had lapses, particularly in the third quarter, that have, you know, gotten teams back in ball games. They haven't played a complete ball game yet. So I think, with that being said, Albany State, and they have a common opponent in Valdosta State, and Albany State played them a little bit better. Valdosta State blew out Savannah State. So I think, with that being said, Albany State wins. I think somewhere in the neighborhood, because you know, they can score, but they're not that kind of ball club where they're going to put out 40, 50, and 60 points. So I think it's somewhere around 28-14. They'll be Savannah State.
I'll monitor that score, and I guess sometimes 3 hours after the game starts, we will have a decision on that ball game. Charles, Jamie, thanks for the time here on today's Carlos Brown Show. Don't forget, you can watch it on Twitter, the Carlos Brown Show, my BCSN1 on Twitter, also on YouTube, my JBN1, and also on the Carlos Brown Show Facebook page. Charles, next week, I will hopefully have my basketball analyst, some predictions to talk about. I didn't want to talk about it this week because he was not able to be on today's show. But next week, Coach Pettaway, we've got to sign him to a contract again to get him on. We can talk swag basketball, both on the men's side and the women's side. Quickly, Charles, though, you saw the predictions. Any surprises?
No surprises. Albeit we were picked to finish 7th, and I did a Landon Bussey meet and greet in Jackson the other night, and he was kind of a little salty about that. He kind of figured, and we didn't have a great season last year, and I thought he probably felt that we could have been picked a little higher. But overall, I don't have a problem with those predictions. I mean, TSU Jackson, they're always going to be there. One thing we can say is it's pretty solid. But I will say that with the different makeup, with Bethune and FAMU coming in, the travel partners are different, the games are different, the rotation is different. It could be a little interesting. I think FAMU and Bethune will throw a wrench in some of these teams' plans come basketball season.
I'm going to do some homework. I know about the teams that are picked to do well, but I was kind of surprised based on what Bethune-Cookman on the women's side have done over the years and where they were picked. Wait till we come back next week, and I'll tell you about that. Unless that team was destroyed, did they lose some student athletes to the transfer portal? If not, beware of the Wildcats on the women's side. Want to thank Brian Fulford for producing today's show, the Black College Sports Network, Jamie Walker, Charles Edmond, all of the guests, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, Charles Edmond, Jamie Walker, and Jim Klein-Peter. Appreciate everyone. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time to 1 p.m. and 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until next time, Jaguars, happy homecoming, and peace, and God bless.